Are you alone right now? Maybe you're listening to this in bed, covers pulled up to your chin, phone glowing in the darkness. Maybe you're driving somewhere, the highway empty, your headlights the only light for miles. Maybe you're at work, pretending to be busy while the story plays through your earbuds. Wherever you are, I want you to think about your name. The name your mother gave you. The name your teachers called across crowded classrooms. The name your friends shout when they see you. The name that makes you turn your head, that makes you answer without thinking. Now imagine hearing that name in the darkness. Your mother's voice, calling you from somewhere you can't see. Your best friend, just around the corner, asking you to come here, come quickly. Would you answer? I used to think the question was ridiculous. Of course you answer when someone calls your name. That's what names are for. Then I became a police officer on the Navajo Nation, and I learned about Rule 7. My name is Marcus Yazzie. I'm an officer with the Navajo Nation Police Department, stationed in Chinle, Arizona. I've been on the force for 3 years now, but the night I'm going to tell you about happened 14 months ago, and I still can't hear my own name without flinching, because something out there knows my name now. Something learned it the hard way by watching me almost answer, and it's still calling. If you want to understand why we have rules about names on the res, drop a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you've ever heard your name called from somewhere it shouldn't be, you're not alone. This is the story of why I don't answer anymore. I need to take you back before I can take you forward. Back to who I was before Rule 7 became more than words on a laminated card. I grew up in Flagstaff, not on the res. My father was Navajo, my mother was white, and I grew up caught between two worlds that never quite fit together. Dad worked construction, Mom taught elementary school, and I spent my childhood trying to figure out which parts of myself belonged where. Dad died when I was 17. Drunk driver, Christmas Eve. I was a senior in high school, already accepted to Arizona State, already planning a life that had nothing to do with the Navajo Nation or the culture Dad tried to teach me on weekends. After he died, I stopped speaking Navajo, stopped going to ceremonies, stopped visiting my grandmother in Window Rock, even when she called every Sunday asking when I was coming home. I became a cop in Phoenix. 5 years on the street, working neighborhoods where the violence was human and the dangers made sense. I was good at it. I understood the rules, the real rules, the ones written in law books and department manuals. Then my grandmother got sick. Cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months. She asked me for one thing: come home before she died. Not to Phoenix, not to Flagstaff. Home. To the Navajo Nation, where our family had lived since the long walk. I transferred to Navajo Nation Police 3 weeks later. Not because I believed in destiny or ancestral callings. I'd rejected all that years ago. I did it because my grandmother was dying and she wanted me close. She lasted 8 months. Long enough to see me in my new uniform. Long enough to make me promise I'd stay at least 1 year. Learn what she called the old ways of protection. Long enough to introduce me to Hastian Willie Nez, the medicine man who lived in a hogan outside Chinle and knew things about the reservation that nobody talked about in official briefings. You have your father's eyes, she told me in the hospital, the week before she passed. He could see things too. He just stopped looking. I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. But I learned. Chinle sits at the mouth of Canyon de Chelly, one of the most beautiful and sacred places in the Navajo Nation. Red sandstone walls rise 1,000 feet from the canyon floor, covered in ancient pictographs left by people who lived here centuries before the Dine arrived. Tourist brochures call it breathtaking, spiritual, a window into the past. They don't mention what lives in those canyons after dark, what waits in the shadows of those ancient walls, listening for names to steal. The police station in Chinle is a modest building, understaffed and underfunded like every station on the res. We cover hundreds of square miles with a handful of officers, responding to everything from domestic disputes to livestock theft to things that don't fit in any official report. My first day, I met my partner, Officer Teresa Benali. She was 5 years older than me, born and raised on the res, traditional in ways I'd abandoned years ago. She wore a small turquoise pendant that had belonged to her grandmother, and she spoke Navajo more than English during our patrols. "You're Thomas Yazzie's son," she said when we were introduced. "Not a question. You knew my father. Everyone knew your father. He was—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "He understood things. Before he left, he didn't leave. He moved to Flagstaff for work." Teresa looked at me with something like pity. "That's what leaving looks like, Marcus. Work is just the excuse." She handed me a laminated card on my third day, worn at the edges, creased from being folded and unfolded countless times. 7 rules typed in English with Navajo translations beneath each one. "Memorize these," she said. "Don't ask questions yet. Just memorize them." I read through the list, feeling my skepticism rise with each ridiculous rule. Don't patrol alone. Watch for animals that don't blink. Check which way Hogan doors face. Smell for phantom smoke. And Rule 7. Never answer when someone calls your name in the darkness, especially if the voice belongs to someone you love. "These are superstitions," I said, echoing something I'd heard myself say too many times since taking this job. Teresa didn't argue. She just nodded at the card. "Your grandmother believed in them. So did your father before he stopped looking." Those words again. Stopped looking. What does that mean? Stopped looking. It means he saw something that scared him so badly he chose blindness instead. He spent the rest of his life pretending the darkness wasn't there. Teresa started the patrol truck, ending the conversation. "You have his eyes. Let's hope you have more courage than he did." I should have asked more questions. Should have pushed her to explain. Instead, I pocketed the card and told myself the protocols were just traditions. Folklore dressed up as police procedure. 6 weeks later, I learned how wrong I was. Our sergeant was a woman named Alice Tedachin, 56 years old, 30 years on the force, with a face that looked like it had been carved from the same sandstone as Canyon de Chelly. She'd seen everything, survived everything, and buried more officers than she liked to count. She called me into her office on a Tuesday morning, 6 weeks into my assignment. "Close the door," she said. "Sit." Her office was small, cluttered with the usual law enforcement decorations, commendations, photos, flags. But there were other things too. A bundle of sage on the windowsill, an old leather pouch hanging from a hook behind her desk, and on the wall a hand-drawn map of our patrol area with certain locations circled in red. "You've been carrying the protocol card for 6 weeks," she said. "You've memorized it, but you don't believe it. With respect, Sergeant, I'm not asking. She cut me off. I'm telling you what I see. You follow the rules because Teresa makes you, not because you understand why they exist. She pulled a thick binder from her desk drawer, old, leather-bound, pages yellow with age. This is the incident log, unofficial. Started in 1972 by my predecessor, continued by every sergeant since. It documents every encounter with what we call unusual activity in this district. She slid it across to me. Read it. Then tell me if you still think the protocols are superstition. I didn't want to read it. Didn't want to give any credibility to what I still considered primitive beliefs dressed up as policy. But Sergeant Tedachin's eyes left no room for refusal. I opened the binder. Page after page of handwritten reports. Dates, locations, descriptions of incidents that made no rational sense. Officers who responded to calls and vanished. Bodies found miles from vehicles with no explanation. People who came back from the desert changed. Their eyes empty, their voices wrong. And names. Dozens of entries about names. November 1983. Officer Randall Begay responded to a call near Chinle. Radio transmission at 2247 indicated he was pursuing a suspect on foot. At 2252, his radio captured audio of his daughter's voice calling Daddy. Come find me. His daughter was confirmed to be at home in Window Rock, 40 miles away. Officer Begay was found the next morning, sitting in his patrol car, unresponsive. He never spoke again. Medical examination found no physical cause. Retired on disability 3 months later. June 1991. Deputy Sarah Blackwater heard her deceased mother calling her name from inside an abandoned hogan near Canyon del Muerto. She answered. Search teams found her vehicle but never found her. Case remains open. February 2008. Officer Leonard So reported hearing his own voice on his radio, asking for his location. He followed protocol, turned off the radio, and drove directly to the station. The next morning, scratches were found on his vehicle, claw marks, later determined to be inconsistent with any known animal. Officer Tso transferred to Window Rock within the month. I read for an hour. The binder contained 40 years of incidents, each one more disturbing than the last. And through all of them, a pattern emerged. The things out there, whatever they were, used names. They learned names, mimicked voices of loved ones, called out in the darkness waiting for someone to answer. And when someone answered, they were taken. Rule 7, Sergeant Tedachin said when I finally looked up. Never answer when someone calls your name in the darkness. It's not superstition, Yazzie. It's survival. What are they? The things that call names? The elders call them different things. Some say they're ye Naldlushii skinwalkers using voices instead of skins. Others say they're something older, something that was here before humans, that feeds on identity itself. She took the binder back. What I know for certain is this. They're real, they're hungry, and they're patient. They'll wait years to learn a name, then use it once perfectly when you're tired and scared and desperate to hear a familiar voice. How do we fight them? We don't fight them. We survive them. We follow the protocols. We never answer when they call. She leaned forward, and we never, ever tell them our real names. Out there, after dark, your officer or partner or hey you, never Marcus, never your father's name, never anything that belongs to you alone. That night, I called my grandmother's medicine man, Hastian Willie Nez. The old man my grandmother had trusted with her spiritual care for 50 years. She told me you'd call eventually, he said, his voice like gravel wrapped in velvet. When you're ready to start looking, come see me. I'll teach you what your father was too afraid to learn. I wasn't ready, not yet, but I was starting to believe. The first time I heard my name called from darkness, I almost answered. It was late October, 3 months into my assignment. Teresa and I were responding to a welfare check. Elderly woman living alone near the rim of Canyon de Chelly. The family hadn't heard from her in 4 days. The drive took 45 minutes on dirt roads that wound through scrubland and juniper. By the time we arrived, the sun was setting, painting the canyon walls in shades of orange and blood. The woman's hogan was traditional, octagonal, made from logs and earth, door facing east as it should. Her truck was parked outside, an ancient Ford that looked like it hadn't moved in weeks. Mrs. Tsosi, Teresa called, approaching the door. Navajo Nation Police. Your daughter asked us to check on you. No answer. The door was ajar, moving slightly in the evening breeze. I smelled it before we entered. That burning smell like smoldering cedar but wrong somehow, toxic. Chemical. Teresa stopped mid-step, her hand flying to my arm. Rule 4, she whispered. Do you smell it? What is it? Stop talking. Her grip tightened. Don't say anything else until we're back at the truck. We backed away slowly, never turning around. The burning smell intensified, then faded as we put distance between ourselves and the hogan. Teresa didn't speak until we were inside the truck with the doors locked. We're calling this in and waiting for backup, she said, reaching for the radio. We are not going inside that hogan. There could be someone hurt in there. There's no one hurt in there. Not anymore. Her voice was flat. That smell means something already has the space. We go in now, we don't come out. Backup took an hour. By the time they arrived, full dark had fallen. We approached in a group, 4 officers with flashlights, moving in formation as Teresa led. The smell was gone. The hogan was empty. But on the floor, where Mrs. Tsosi's bed should have been, we found a circle of ash. And in the center of the circle, a photograph, Mrs. Tsosi and what looked like her family. Faces scratched out with something sharp. We searched the property until midnight, found nothing, called for tracking dogs the next morning. They followed a trail from the hogan to the canyon rim, then stopped, circling in confusion as if the scent had simply ended. Mrs. Tsosi was never found. On the drive back to the station, my radio crackled. Static, then a voice, clear and perfect despite the isolation of the area. Marcus. My hand moved toward the transmit button. My father's voice. Exactly my father's voice, the way he'd said my name when I was a child and he was calling me in from playing outside. Marcus, son, I need you to come here. Teresa slapped my hand away from the radio so hard it stung. Don't answer. Her voice was sharp enough to cut. Don't say a word. That was my father's voice. Your father is dead. Whatever that was, it wasn't him. She grabbed the radio, turned it off and held it in her lap where I couldn't reach. It knows your name now. It heard someone use it and now it knows. Heard someone? Heard who? Teresa's face was gray. Me. I called you Marcus at the hogan when I grabbed your arm. It was heard, and now it knows. We drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, lying in my apartment, I heard tapping at my window, rhythmic, patient. Then my father's voice, muffled by the glass. "Marcus, let me in, son. I've been trying to find you for so long. I didn't sleep until dawn. For 2 weeks it followed me. Not physically, I never saw anything, never found tracks or evidence of something watching. But the calls came. Every night, sometime between midnight and 3 a.m., I would hear my name. Sometimes from the radio, even when it was turned off. Sometimes from outside my window. Once, from my phone, a call from Dad with a number that hadn't worked since 2015. I stopped answering my phone after dark. Stopped looking out windows after sunset. Started sleeping with earplugs. Then with headphones playing white noise, trying to block out the voice that somehow always got through. "It's testing you," Teresa told me when I finally admitted what was happening. "Learning your patterns. Figuring out what will make you answer. How do I make it stop? You don't. It stops when it gives up or when it finds an easier target." She paused. "Or when you answer. Then it stops because it has what it wants. What happens if I answer?" Teresa didn't respond right away. She stared out the windshield at the desert stretching before us. And when she spoke, her voice was distant. "My brother answered once. 16 years ago. He was out checking on livestock. Heard our mother calling him from the wash behind our property. He went to look." She turned to face me. "They found him 3 days later, in a cave 10 miles from where he should have been. He was still alive, but empty, like someone had scooped out everything that made him Brian and left only the shell. He survived. His body survived. The thing that came back, it looked like Brian, sounded like Brian, knew all of Brian's memories. But it wasn't him. The eyes were wrong. The way it moved was wrong. We could all feel it." Teresa's hand went to the turquoise pendant at her throat. "My mother had him blessed, cleansed, everything the Hadali could try. Nothing worked. He walked into the desert one night, a month after we found him, and never came back." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be careful." She looked at me with something fierce in her eyes. "Whatever took Brian is still out there. Maybe it's what's calling you now. Maybe it's something else. But they all work the same way. They learn your name, they mimic voices you trust, and they wait for you to answer. Rule 7 exists because my brother didn't follow it. That night, I went to see Hastian Willie Nez. His Hogan sat alone in a valley east of Chinle, far from any neighbors. The old medicine man was waiting on his porch when I arrived, as if he'd known I was coming. "Your grandmother said you'd find your way here eventually," he said, gesturing for me to sit. "Something is calling my name. At night, using my father's voice. Yes, they've been interested in your family for generations." Willie's face was unreadable in the starlight. "Your great-grandmother drove one away through ceremony. Your grandfather made bargains to keep them at bay. Your father..." He shook his head. "Your father ran. Thought if he left the res, they couldn't follow. He was wrong. You're saying these things killed my father?" "I'm saying they were waiting for him to come back. When he didn't, they waited for you instead." Willie reached into his shirt and pulled out a small leather pouch. "This was your grandmother's protection medicine, blessed by 3 generations of Hadali. She wanted you to have it. I took the pouch. It was warm, despite the cold night air. Will this stop them from calling? Nothing stops them from calling. This helps you not answer. Willie stood, moving toward his Hogan door. The one hunting you is old, patient. It's been learning your family's names for a long time, but it can't take you if you don't respond. Remember that. Your name is power, don't give it away. I drove home clutching the medicine pouch, my father's voice whispering from every shadow on the roadside. Marcus, Marcus, son, why won't you answer me? Don't you love me anymore? I didn't answer. But God, I wanted to. The attacks continued for another week, then suddenly stopped. No voices at my window, no impossible phone calls, no radio transmissions from the dead. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt watched, like something had stepped back to observe, to plan, to prepare for a different approach. Teresa noticed the change. Pulling back. That's not good. How is no more voices a bad thing? Because it means you were too hard to crack. I'm gonna try something else. She was studying the incident log Sergeant Tedachin had shared with me. Something softer, more personal. She was right. The call came 3 days later. Dispatch sent us to a domestic disturbance near Ganado. A man threatening his wife, possible weapon involved. Standard call. Routine. We arrived to find a small house. Lights on. A woman standing on the porch holding a baby. Her face was tear-streaked, terrified. He's inside, she said. He has a knife. He says he's not Richard anymore. Says something is wearing him like a coat. Teresa and I exchanged looks. She keyed her radio, calling for backup. I approached the house, hand on my weapon. Richard, this is the Navajo Nation Police. We just want to talk. Your wife is worried about you. A voice from inside, male, rough, unstable. Richard's not here anymore. Richard let me in. He answered when I called, and now Richard is mine. My blood went cold. We secured the perimeter. Backup arrived in 40 minutes. By the time we breached the door, Richard Nez, 34 years old, father of 2, construction worker with no history of violence, was sitting in the middle of his living room, surrounded by ash, staring at nothing. He was alive, but when I looked in his eyes, I saw exactly what Teresa had described about her brother. Empty, wrong. Something trying on a human face and not quite making it fit. Richard didn't speak during processing, didn't respond to his name, didn't recognize his wife, didn't react when his children were mentioned. Medical evaluation found nothing physically wrong with him. 2 days later, he escaped from the hospital, walked out during a shift change and vanished into the desert. They never found him. But that night, I heard a new voice calling my name. Not my father's voice this time. Richard's voice. Marcus. Marcus Yazzie. I know where you live. I know where you sleep. I know what you're afraid of. Then laughter, high, wrong, broken. You should have answered when your father called. It would have been gentler. Now I'm hungry, and I've been watching you for so long. I called Hasty and Willie Nez at 3 a.m., hands shaking. It's getting stronger, I told him. It took someone else. Now it has a new voice to use. Then it's time to stop running. Willie's voice was calm, steady. Your grandmother prepared for this before she died. She left instructions. Come to me tomorrow after sunset. We're gonna teach you how to fight. The ritual took 4 hours. In Willie's Hogan, surrounded by sacred objects I didn't recognize, the old medicine man sang songs that my grandmother had taught him decades ago. Songs of protection, songs of naming and unnaming, songs that seemed to push against the darkness outside, making the walls glow faintly with something I couldn't explain. Your name is not just letters, Willie told me during a break. It's your identity, your connection to your family, your ancestors, your place in the world. When they take a name, they take all of that. They consume your history, your relationships, yourself, and they use what's left as a mask. How do I protect my name? You can't protect it from being known. It's already learned it. He began arranging items in a pattern on the floor. But you can anchor it. Tie it so deeply to your own spirit that even if something takes your body, it can't take your name. The ceremony was intense, painful at times. I felt things moving inside me, shifting, settling into new configurations. Memories of my father surfaced, good ones I'd suppressed after his death, along with conversations I'd forgotten, moments of connection I'd denied. By the end, I was exhausted but different. The medicine pouch my grandmother had left me felt heavier, warmer, more present. It will still call, Willie warned. But now you'll hear the lie underneath, the wrongness that proves it isn't who it claims to be. And if I have to face it directly, then you use this. He handed me a small obsidian blade, no longer than my finger. Blessed by your grandmother herself. If something wearing a stolen name tries to take you, you cut the connection. Sever the mask from the face beneath. I didn't fully understand what he meant. 2 nights later, I found out. Teresa and I were patrolling near Naslini Wash when the call came. A child lost in the desert, 7-year-old girl who wandered away from her grandmother's house at sunset. Search teams were already forming, but we were closest. We drove to the last known location and began searching on foot. Flashlights cutting through darkness. Teresa taking the north grid, me taking the south. I found footprints quickly, small, child-sized, leading toward a rocky outcrop about half a mile from the house. And then I heard it. Daddy, a little girl's voice, terrified, coming from behind the rocks.
Daddy, I'm scared.
Please help me. For one terrible moment, I almost answered. The instinct was overwhelming. A child in danger, crying for her father. Every officer instinct screamed at me to respond, to let her know help was coming. Then I noticed the wind had stopped. Complete stillness. Not a breath of air moving. Rule 5. When the wind stops completely at night, do not move until it returns. And Rule 7. Never answer when someone calls your name. The voice wasn't calling my name, but it was calling for a daddy, and I was supposed to be the one to answer. I keyed my radio instead. Teresa, west of the outcrop. Possible contact. Something's wrong. Static. Then Teresa's voice. Marcus, stay where you are. Don't move. Don't speak. Daddy, please. The voice again, closer now. I know you're there. Why won't you help me? Something moved in the darkness. A shape, small at first, like a child crouching behind the rocks. Then it unfolded, stretched, became something tall and wrong, proportions that made my eyes hurt. And then it spoke in my father's voice. Marcus, I'm so proud of you, son. You came back home, just like I always wanted. Come here. Let me hold you. The figure stepped into my flashlight beam. It wore my father's face. Not perfectly. The eyes were too dark, the smile too wide, but close enough to make my chest constrict with grief I'd buried for 12 years. Come here, Marcus. Let me say your name properly. Let me welcome you home. My hand went to the obsidian blade in my pocket. You're not my father. The words came out steady despite everything. The thing wearing Dad's face tilted its head at an angle no human neck should allow. I have his voice, his memories. I know about the time you broke your arm falling out of the tree in the backyard. I know about your first girlfriend. I know the last thing he said to you before the accident. You have what you stole from him. That doesn't make you him. I'm more him than you are, Marcus. The voice shifted, became colder. You abandoned everything he tried to teach you. You stopped speaking his language, stopped visiting his mother, stopped being Navajo the moment it became convenient. The accusations stung because they were true. All those years running from who I was, pretending my heritage was just a detail in my background instead of the core of my identity. Maybe I did, I admitted. But I came back, and I'm not giving you my name. The thing laughed. My father's laugh, but stretched wrong, like a recording played at the wrong speed. You don't have to give it. I already know it. Marcus Thomas Yazzie, son of Thomas William Yazzie and Jennifer Marie Crawford. Born at Flagstaff Medical Center, March 17, 1995. Baptized at Sacred Heart Church. Blessed in a Navajo ceremony 3 months later. I stepped closer. I know everything about you. I've been learning your family for decades. Then why haven't you taken me yet? The thing stopped. For the first time, its smile faltered. You know why? I did know. Willie's ceremony. My grandmother's protection. The medicine pouch burning against my chest. You can say my name all you want, I said, pulling the obsidian blade from my pocket. But it doesn't belong to you. It's anchored, tied to my spirit. You can't consume what you can't take. Foolish boy. The voice dropped my father's tone, becoming something ancient and hollow. I've eaten stronger spirits than yours. Medicine men. Hadali who thought their ceremonies made them untouchable. Your grandmother finished the ritual before you could take her. Left her protection to me. I raised the blade and left this. The thing looked at the obsidian. Something flickered in those two dark eyes. Fear. That blade holds names, it said, backing away. Names of the ones who fought back. Names of power. My grandmother's name. My great-grandmother's. Every woman in my family who stood against things like you. I stepped forward. You want my name? Come and try to take it. The wind returned, sudden and fierce, carrying sand that stung my exposed skin. And with the wind came Teresa, flashlight blazing, her own weapon drawn. Marcus, what? She stopped when she saw the thing wearing my father's face, turned toward her, smiled with too many teeth. Teresa Benali, I know your brother's name too. Would you like to hear him again? Don't listen, I said. It's just sounds. It's not real. The thing began speaking in a new voice, younger, male. Teresa's brother, begging for help, crying that he was lost, that he didn't know how to get home. Teresa's face went white. Her hand trembled on her flashlight. Brian, she whispered. Don't answer. I said, moving between her and the thing. It's Rule 7. Don't answer. But I can hear you hear what it wants you to hear. Your brother is gone. This thing ate him 16 years ago, and now it's using his voice as bait. I grabbed her arm, squeezed hard. Don't give it your name either. The thing shrieked, a sound no human throat could make. The stolen voices collapsed into a cacophony of screaming, crying, begging, each one overlapping until the sound was unbearable. I raised the obsidian blade and spoke the words Willie had taught me. Words in Navajo. Old words. Words that named what the thing was and rejected its power. The effect was immediate. The thing convulsed, its stolen faces flickering like a broken television, cycling through dozens of identities it had consumed. Men, women, children, elders, officers. You think you've won? Its voice was many voices now, all speaking at once. I've been eating names since before your people came to this land. One ceremony won't end me. No, I agreed. But it'll send you back. And it'll remember you. Every Hadali on this land will know your face now. I slashed with the blade. Not at the thing's body, at the air between us. At the connection it was trying to form. Light flared from the cut. Not natural light, something older, brighter. The thing screamed and folded in on itself. Collapsed into shadow. Dispersed like smoke in the wind. Silence. Real silence. With the natural sounds of the desert returning. Insects. Wind. Distant coyotes. Teresa was shaking beside me. Is it gone? Gone from here? For now. I pocketed the blade with hands that trembled. It'll be back. Things like that don't die, they retreat. Reform. Find new names to learn. Then how do we stop it? We don't. We just keep following the rules. Keep not answering. Keep protecting the names we have. I looked at the place where the thing had stood. In the sand, I could see footprints, dozens of them, overlapping, each a different size. All the people it had worn, all the names it had consumed. Let's find the girl, I said. The real one. She's still out there somewhere. We found her 20 minutes later, hiding in a wash half a mile away, scared but unharmed. She'd heard something calling her mother's name and had run in the opposite direction. Smart kid. She'd followed Rule 7 without even knowing it existed. The thing didn't return that night, or the next, but it left marks. Teresa took a week of leave to visit her family, to perform ceremonies for her brother's spirit. Sergeant Tadachin updated the incident log with my report, marking it as one of the most significant encounters in decades. And I began studying with Hastian Willie Nez in earnest. 3 nights a week after my shift ended, I drove to his hogan and learned what my father had been too afraid to learn. The songs, the prayers, the way to anchor a name so deeply that nothing could steal it. You drove it away, Willie told me during one of our sessions. That's more than most can say. But driving away is not the same as defeating. It will return. It always returns. What do I do when it comes back? You continue doing what you're doing. You follow the rules. You don't answer. He studied my face in the firelight. And you teach others. That's the real protection, knowledge shared. The more people who know not to answer, the fewer names it can take. I started training new officers personally. Every recruit who came through Chinle Station got the protocol card on their first day, along with a personal briefing from me. Most thought I was crazy at first, just like I did. Most believed eventually, just like I did. 3 months after the confrontation, I heard my father's voice again. It was 2 a.m., and I was driving home from a late shift. The radio crackled. I'd left it on by mistake, and suddenly there he was. "Marcus, I'm so proud of you, son." I reached for the power button. "I know you can't answer. I know you won't. But I wanted you to know. I'm proud of who you've become." Something in the voice was different. Softer, sadder, more real. I hesitated. "Don't follow it." That was Teresa's voice, coming through the radio on a different frequency. She'd been monitoring my channel, watching out for me. "I know," I said. "I wasn't going to, but for just a moment I'd wanted to. Not because the thing fooled me. I could hear the wrongness underneath now, the hungry emptiness trying to wear love as a mask. I wanted to because I missed my father, because I'd never really said goodbye, because part of me still hoped that somewhere, somehow he was trying to reach me. That's what the name eaters understand. They don't use fear alone. They use love. They use grief. They use all the longing in a human heart and twist it into a trap. Rule 7 isn't about fear. It's about knowing that love can be weaponized and choosing not to let it. 6 months passed. The thing never stopped calling, but I never answered. It tried different voices, my grandmother, my mother, old friends from Phoenix, even fellow officers. Each time I recognized the wrongness, and each time I refused to respond. Eventually, the calls became less frequent. The thing was learning that I wasn't an easy target. Others weren't so lucky. We lost 2 more people during those 6 months. A teenager who wandered into the desert after hearing his girlfriend's voice. An elderly woman who opened her door to what sounded like her long-dead husband. Each loss reminded me why the rules existed. Each loss made me more committed to teaching others. I became something I'd never expected, a bridge between worlds. The cop who understood the old ways. The city kid who came home and learned to see. Hastian Willie Nez died peacefully in his sleep about a year after our first meeting. Before he passed, he gave me his ceremonial bundle, all the tools and sacred objects he'd used for 60 years of spiritual protection. "You're not a Hat Ali," he told me. "You're something else, something new, a protector who walks in both worlds, the world of law and the world of spirits. I don't know if I'm ready for that. You weren't ready to face what was called your name either. You did it anyway." He smiled, the first time I'd ever seen him smile. "Your grandmother chose well." Now I carry his bundle in my patrol car, along with my badge and my service weapon. Different tools for different threats. The thing that wears names is still out there, still calling, still hungry, but it hasn't taken anyone from my district in over a year. And every new officer who joins our station learns Rule 7 on their first day. It's been 14 months since that night by the rocks. I still hear my father's voice sometimes. Late at night when I'm tired, when my defenses are low. It whispers my name like a prayer, like a promise, like a trap. I don't answer. Instead, I remember what Hastian Willie taught me, that my name is my anchor, that my identity is my shield, that the things which call from darkness can only take what we give them. Teresa and I still patrol together. Same roads, same territory, same rules, but different now, stronger. We've looked into the face of something that eats names, and we're still here, Sometimes, on quiet nights, she asks me if I really believe my father's spirit is at peace. If what I hear is only the creature, or if part of it might actually be him trapped somewhere trying to reach me. I don't know the answer, but I know that if my father could speak to me, the real him, not the thing wearing his voice, he would tell me the same thing my grandmother told me before she died. Don't answer until you can see their face, and never give your name to the darkness. Rule 7. The rule that keeps us alive. If you're listening to this in the dark, and you hear someone calling your name, someone you love, someone you've lost, someone you desperately want to hear from again, I need you to remember something. Wait until you can see their face. And if you can't see them, don't answer. The voice might belong to someone you love, but it might belong to something that only wants you to think so. Stay safe out there. Keep your name close. And if you hear something calling from the darkness, don't answer. Don't answer until you can see their face. And never give your name to the darkness. Rule 7. The rule that keeps us alive. If you're listening to this in the dark, and you hear someone calling your name, someone you love, someone you've lost, someone you desperately want to hear from again, I need you to remember something. Wait until you can see their face. And if you can't see them, don't answer. The voice might belong to someone you love, but it might belong to something that only wants you to think so. Stay safe out there. Keep your name close. And if you hear something calling from the darkness, don't answer.